My brother, who slept with my wife and planned for me to raise their baby. So, I walk away until one DNA test exposed everything they tried to hide. I, a 32-year-old male, have been working as a park ranger for about 8 years now. It's not the most glamorous job, but I'm outdoors. It has good benefits, and I get to be away from the damn office politics that drove me crazy in my last job. I hunt, fish, know how to track animals, and can survive in the wilderness with just a knife if I have to. My dad taught me all that before. He passed away when I was 19 from a heart attack while out on our annual hunting trip. I was the one who had to drag his body 2 miles back to our truck. That kind of experience changes you. It makes you grow up fast. After Dad died, I stepped up to help Mom with bills while finishing my degree in environmental science. I worked nights at this dive bar near campus, took extra shifts on weekends, and did whatever I had to do. Meanwhile, my younger brother Ryan got to keep enjoying his college experience without worrying about a damn thing. That's been the story of our lives. Me doing the hard work, Ryan getting the rewards. I started as a seasonal ranger right after graduation and worked my ass off through 4 brutal winters before landing a permanent position. The pay wasn't great at first, but the work suited me. I've always been more comfortable in the woods than in the city. There's an honesty to nature that you don't find in people. Animals don't lie to you. They don't pretend to be something they're not. I met Amy at a friend's barbecue 5 years ago. She was this stunning redhead with green eyes that could stop traffic. Smart as hell, too. She worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, making twice what I made, but she never made me feel less because of it. At least not at first. We hit it off right away. Both of us had grown up hunting and fishing, and both loved the outdoors. She wasn't some prissy girl afraid to get her hands dirty. On our 3rd date, I took her camping and she outfished me 3-1. I was impressed as hell, maybe even a little intimidated. We got married 2 years later. It was nothing fancy, just a small ceremony at this lakeside cabin I'd rented. Her parents weren't thrilled. They wanted some big church wedding with all the trimmings. But Amy stood her ground. She said she wanted something that represented us. I respected that about her. She seemed so genuine, so real. We bought this decent 3-bedroom house on the edge of town. It was nothing fancy, but it had a huge yard, where I built a fire pit and a workshop where I make furniture on my days off. I'm not a master craftsman or anything, but I can build a solid oak table that'll last a lifetime. I made most of our furniture myself. Amy used to brag about it to her friends, how handy I was, how I could fix anything, build anything. I liked being that guy for her. For the first 2 years, things were good. Really good. We hiked on weekends and took camping trips whenever we both had days off. We talked about the future, about having kids someday. Amy was climbing the corporate ladder at her pharmaceutical company, getting promotions in bigger territories. I was making steady progress at the park, handling more responsibilities and training new rangers. We were a team, building something. Together, everyone thought we were the perfect couple. My mom adored Amy. My friends all said I'd outest my coverage with her. Then there's my younger brother, Ryan, the golden child. My parents paid for his college while I worked my way through. He dropped out after 3 years anyway, but still got a brand new car for his 21st birthday. He's been finding himself for the past decade, crashing on couches, borrowing money he never pays back, and somehow still being the favorite at every family gathering. Ryan's just sensitive, my mom would say. He's creative. Not everyone fits into the 9-to-5 box. Meanwhile, I'm busting my ass 50 hours a week, but I'm the stable one, so I don't need the praise or attention. Whatever. Ryan's the type who always lands on his feet, no matter how bad he screws up. He gets fired for showing up drunk, and someone offers him another job. He crashes his car driving recklessly, and Mom buys him another one. Amy and I agreed to wait on kids. She was climbing the ladder at work, and I was hoping to make park supervisor in the next couple of years. It was all planned out. We'd start trying when she hit 32. I'd be 34 by then, financially stable, maybe with a bigger house. We talked about it all the time. How many kids we wanted, 2, maybe 3, what schools they'd go to, whether we'd raise them with religion. No, for both of us. It was all figured out. At least, I thought it was. Then things started to change slowly at first. So gradually, I barely noticed. Amy started working later, traveling more for her job. We were having sex less often. Maybe once every couple of weeks instead of the 3 to 4 times a week we used to. When I tried to initiate, she'd say she was too tired, had a headache, or had an early meeting. I told myself it was just the natural evolution of a relationship. The honeymoon phase wearing off. But now looking back, I can see all the signs I missed. The sudden password on her phone. The way she'd step outside to take calls. How she'd get all dressed up for work dinners, but come home smelling like cologne. That wasn't mine. I was blind because I wanted to be, because the alternative was too painful to consider. It was a normal Tuesday when Amy came home with this weird energy about her. I was grilling steaks out back, nice rib eyes. I'd been saving for a special occasion. There was no special occasion that night, but things had been tense between us lately, and I thought a good dinner might help. She waited until we were eating, then just blurted it out. "Jack, I'm pregnant." I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. "Wait, what? How?" "You're on the pill." "I know," she said. It must have failed. Isn't it amazing? She was watching me so intently, like she was studying my reaction, not excited like you'd expect, more calculating. "Yeah, amazing," I said, trying to process. "How far along?" "About 8 weeks, according to the doctor. I took a test last week, but wanted to confirm before telling you." She reached across the table for my hand. "Aren't you happy?" I forced a smile, said all the things you're supposed to say. Hugged her, told her we'd figure it out, but my mind was racing. 8 weeks. 8 weeks ago, I was on a 4-day backcountry training exercise with new rangers. I'd come home exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open, let alone have sex. We hadn't been together for at least 2 weeks before that trip, and not for another week after. But I pushed the doubts away. The pill isn't 100% effective, right, Kibi? We had been together, and I was just misremembering. Maybe it happened that night. I had those 3 beers and fell asleep on the couch. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband who can't trust his wife. That night, lying in bed, things just weren't adding up. But I told myself I was being paranoid, overthinking, looking for problems that weren't there. Amy had never given me a real reason not to trust her, right? So for the next couple of weeks, I played along. I started looking up cribs online and talked about converting the spare room into a nursery. All while this, knot in my stomach, kept getting tighter. Amy seemed different too, always on her phone. Smiling at texts, taking calls in the other room. When I'd ask who it was always just work or just my mom. One night, I woke up around 2 o'clock in the morning and she wasn't in bed. I found her in the kitchen, whispering on the phone. When she saw me, she jumped like she'd seen a ghost and quickly hung up. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just Sarah from work." She said, not meeting my eyes. "She's going through a rough patch with her husband. Needed someone to talk to." At 2 o'clock in the morning, I wanted to ask, but didn't. I just nodded and went back to bed. Laid there staring at the ceiling while she stayed in the kitchen for another 20 minutes before coming back. Then there was the incident with Ryan. He showed up at our house unannounced one Sunday, supposedly to congratulate us on the baby news. Mom must have told him, but the way he and Amy looked at each other, there was something there I couldn't put my finger on. A familiarity that seemed new. She laughed at all his stupid jokes. Touched his arm a few times, Ryan kept giving me these looks like he knew something I didn't. Ryan had always been the charming one, the good-looking one, while I'm built more like our dad, solid, stocky, strong. Ryan got our mom's leaner frame, her green eyes, that thick red hair that women seem to love. He'd always had an easy time with girls, even back in high school when I was struggling with acne and braces. He stayed for dinner, told stories about his latest business venture, some app idea he was developing, but never seemed to make any progress on. The whole time, Amy was hanging on his every word, like he was the most fascinating man alive. This from the woman who usually rolled her eyes at his get-rich-quick schemes. After he left, I asked Amy, what was that all about? What was what about? She said, not meeting my eyes. You and Ryan, you guys seemed, I don't know, weird? She rolled her eyes. Don't be ridiculous, Jack. He's your brother. I was just being nice. Besides, he's excited about becoming an uncle. I let it go, but the seed was planted, and over the next few weeks, it grew. Ryan started coming around more often. Always when he knew I'd be working late or on weekend shifts. I'd come home to find him sitting on my couch, his feet up on the coffee table I'd built with my own 2 hands. Oh, he'd always have some excuse. Needed to borrow some tools. Wanted to see if I could help him with his car just in the neighborhood. Amy never seemed annoyed by these visits. In fact, she seemed to look forward to them. She started making his favorite meals when she knew he'd be stopping by and bought his favorite beer to keep in the fridge. Little things that most people wouldn't notice, but I did. Still, I kept my suspicions to myself. I didn't want to be that insecure guy accusing his pregnant wife of what exactly? Being friendly with my brother? Sounded crazy even in my head. So I stayed quiet, watched, and waited. A few days later, I was getting ready to head out for my shift when I realized I'd forgotten my lunch in the fridge. Amy had made me this big breakfast that morning. Pancakes, bacon, the works. Not something she usually did on a weekday. I wonder if it was guilt making her do that. I came back inside quietly. Amy was in the shower, so she didn't hear me. Her phone was on the counter, and it buzzed with a text. I've never been the type to snoop, but the preview caught my eye. It was from Ryan. Can't wait to see you today. Jack working late again. My hand started shaking. I'd never gone through Amy's phone before, never felt the need to. We'd always had this trust between us, or at least I thought we did. But in that moment, something in me just snapped. I picked up her phone. Okay, no password. She never needed one because I trusted her. I opened the message thread and started scrolling. He seriously has no idea the baby isn't his. What a _idiot. My own brother raising my kid. He's too busy being Mr. Park Ranger to notice what's happening right under his nose. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. We need to be careful, if he ever found out. There were pictures, explicit ones, dates that lined up perfectly with when the baby must have been conceived. They'd been sleeping together for months. My brother, my _golden boy brother, and my wife. I scrolled back further, saw the first messages from 6 months ago, right around the time Amy started working late more often. Right around the time our sex life took a nosedive. All those business trips she took, half of them were fake. She was with Ryan. There was a message from the day she told me she was pregnant. He bought it completely. You should have seen his face. Totally clueless. Ryan's response? That's my big bro. Always the last to know. I felt like I was going to throw up. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the phone. 8 years of marriage, all those plans we'd made, the life we'd built together, all a lie. And my own brother. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, I couldn't even process it. I took screenshots, sent them to my phone, and put hers back exactly where it was. I could hear the shower still running. part of me wanted to confront her right then and there, catch her wet and naked and vulnerable, make her face what she'd done. But some cold, rational part of my brain took over. If I confronted her now, she'd just deny it, delete the evidence, make me look like the crazy one. No, if they wanted to play games, I could play too, and I'd make damn sure I won. I walked outside, got in my truck, and just sat there, engine off, staring at nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to go back in there and confront them both. Instead, I started my truck and drove to work. I went through my entire shift like a zombie. My supervisor asked if I was okay, said I seemed distracted. I made up some excuse about not sleeping well. Inside, I was dying, but outside, I was calm. Collected planning. That night, I came home and kissed Amy hello like nothing was wrong. I rubbed her barely there baby bump, asked about her day, all while my insides were churning with rage and heartbreak. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. Because if they thought I was some clueless idiot they could manipulate, I was going to show them just how wrong they were. I may not have Ryan's charm or good looks. I may not have his easy way with women, but I've got something he's never had. Patience, discipline, the ability to think long-term. And I was going to use every bit of it to make sure they both paid for what they'd done. The first thing I needed was more evidence. The screenshots were a good start, but I needed to document the affair thoroughly, not just for my own satisfaction, but for the legal battle I knew was coming. Amy might have been my brother, but she wasn't stupid. She knew I made decent money, had good benefits, a pension plan. No way she was going to let all that go without a fight. I installed a keylogger on our home computer and set up a small camera in our living room. Completely legal, since it was my house. 2. I started keeping detailed notes of every time Amy said she was working late or meeting friends. The evidence piled up fast. She was meeting Ryan 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Hotels, his buddies. Apartment, sometimes even in our goddamn bed when I was on 24-hour shifts at the park. The recordings made me sick, hearing her laugh about how stupid I was. How I'd make such a reliable dad while Ryan could be the fun one. Jack's so boring and predictable, she told Ryan once. T's stable, he'll provide. You can be the exciting one. My brother just laughed. Poor Jack. Always doing the right thing. Always following the rules while I'm his wife and making him raise my kid. They had a whole plan worked out. Amy would have the baby. I'd be the official father on the birth certificate, financially responsible for everything. Ryan would be the fun uncle who came around often. They'd keep sleeping together whenever I was at work, and I'd be none the wiser. The clueless husband raising another man's child, my own brother's child. Each new piece of evidence was like a knife in my gut. 8 years of marriage. All those camping trips, all those late-night talks about our future. Had any of it been real? Had she ever loved me at all? Or had I just been a meal ticket from the beginning? They thought they had it all figured out. They had no idea what was coming. But I needed more than just proof of the affair. I needed to protect myself legally. So, I called an old buddy from college who'd become a family attorney. Jeff, I need some advice. Hypothetically, if my wife is pregnant with someone else's baby, what am I looking at here? Long pause. Jack, is everything okay? Just answer the question, please. Kay sighed. Well, in most states, if you're married when the baby is born, you're presumed to be the father. Your name goes on the birth certificate. Automatically, unless you contest it. And if I want to contest it, you'd need to refuse to sign the birth certificate and immediately file for a paternity test. But Jack, this doesn't sound hypothetical. Can you meet me for a beer after work? There's something I need to show you. We met at this dive bar across town, somewhere Amy and Ryan would never go. I showed Jeff the screenshots and played him some of the recordings. By the end, he was furious on my behalf. That piece of underscore brother of yours and your wife. Jesus, Jack, I'm so sorry, man. So what's my play here? Document everything. Keep building your case, and whatever you do, do not act like you know until we've got everything in place. Don't sign anything when the baby is born. No birth certificate, no nothing. We'll demand a paternity test immediately. What about child support? If it's not my kid, I'm not paying for 18 years. If we can prove you're not the father and contest paternity immediately, you should be off the hook. But we need to be strategic about this. So that's what I did. Kept tracking them, building my case, all while playing the excited dad-to-be. I rubbed her belly. I assembled a crib. I even invited Ryan over for dinner a few times just to watch them squirm and exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. So, Ryan, I said during one of these dinners, you excited to be an uncle? He nearly choked on his beer. Yeah, totally. Super excited. You'll have to babysit sometimes. Give me and Amy a break. Sure, bro. Anytime. Amy jumped in a little too eagerly. Ryan would be a great babysitter. He's so good with kids, is he? I asked, my voice dripping with fake innocence. I didn't know that. They exchanged a look that spoke volumes. I just smiled and took another bite of my food. The whole time I was getting everything ready for the moment I'd spring the trap. And with Jeff's help, I was preparing a legal strategy that would destroy them both. I needed something foolproof. Something that would not only get me out of this mess, but would make sure they both paid for what they'd done to me. The first part was easy. I needed to make sure I wasn't on the hook for child support for 18 years. Jeff walked me through what I'd need. Proof I wasn't the father. DNA test, evidence that Amy knew I wasn't the father. The texts and recordings, and legal paperwork removing me from parental obligations. But I wanted more than just to be free of responsibility. I wanted them both to suffer like they'd made me suffer. So I came up with a plan. One night, I sat Amy down at the kitchen table. Honey, I've been thinking about the baby and our future, I said, trying to sound as sincere as possible. With my job being sometimes dangerous, I want to make sure you and the baby are protected if anything happens to me. She looked surprised. What do you mean? I've drawn up some papers, life insurance stuff, health directives, a trust for the baby's education, just want to make sure everyone's taken care of. She barely glanced at the stack of official-looking documents I'd prepared with Jeff. Hidden in the middle was a legal agreement stating that in the event of a paternity dispute, she waived all rights to child support or financial assistance from me, and full financial responsibility would fall to the biological father. She signed every page without reading a single one. Too busy texting someone under the table? Probably Ryan. The next part of my plan involved the hospital. I called the maternity ward where she was registered to deliver. Hi, my wife's due in a few months. I just wanted to make sure you do the standard paternity test as part of the newborn screening. It's for our insurance. That's not standard, sir, but we can certainly add it to her file if you'd like. Yes, please. And can you make sure the results are sent directly to my email? It's for the insurance claim. The final piece was making sure Ryan couldn't wiggle out of responsibility. This was trickier, but Jeff found a legal loophole. If Ryan didn't formally contest paternity within 30 days of being notified, he would automatically be considered the legal father, regardless of whether he wanted to be or not. While all this was happening, I kept up appearances. I went to Amy's prenatal appointments, helped her set up the nursery. Even went to one of those childbirth classes where they teach you breathing exercises and whatnot. All the while, I was dying inside. Every ultrasound picture, every baby kick. She wanted me to feel every discussion about names. It was all a reminder of their betrayal. There were moments when I almost broke. When the rage and hurt threatened to boil over, like when Ryan showed up to the baby shower Amy's friends threw for us, bringing some expensive baby gift and acting like the proud uncle-to-be. He gave a speech about how happy he was for us, how lucky the baby was to have me as a father, all with this irritating grin on his face. I had to step outside, grip the porch railing until my knuckles turned white just to keep from punching him in the face. Or the night Amy came to bed wearing this lingerie I'd never seen before, trying to initiate sex for the first time in months. The doctor said, "It's still safe," she whispered, running her hands over me. All I could think about was whether she'd worn that same lingerie for Ryan, whether she'd said those same words to him. I made up some excuse about being tired and turned away from her. I couldn't bear to touch her, knowing where she'd been. The pregnancy dragged on, each day a new test of my acting abilities. My mom was thrilled about becoming a grandmother, constantly calling with advice, sending baby clothes, asking when she could come visit after the birth. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth yet, that her precious Ryan, the golden child she'd always favored, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. As Amy's due date approached, I started making preparations of my own. I rented a small apartment across town, paid 3 months in advance, packed a go-bag with essentials, and kept it in my truck. I set up a new bank account at a different bank and started moving money into it little by little so Amy wouldn't notice. I consulted with Jeff about divorce proceedings. All the pieces were in place now. I just had to wait. Amy went into labor 3 weeks early. I was at work when she called, her voice tight with pain. "Jack, my water broke. I need you to come home." I drove home like any supportive husband would, helped her to the car, timed her contractions on the way to the hospital, held her hand through the worst of them, and called her parents. I didn't call Ryan or my mom, though. I said I couldn't reach them. I didn't want them there for what was coming next. The labor was long and difficult. 16 hours of Amy screaming, crying, clutching my hand. There were moments when I almost felt sorry for her, almost forgot what she'd done. Then I'd remember those text messages, those recordings, and my heart would harden again. After 16 hours of labor, a baby boy was born, weighing 8 pounds 2 ounces. They handed him to me first. This tiny person with a tuft of red hair, just like Ryan's had been when he was born. Nothing like my dark brown. I looked down at this child, my nephew, not my son, and felt nothing. No connection, no bond, just the cold certainty that I was doing the right thing. The nurse asked if I wanted to be listed as the father on the birth certificate. "Actually," I said calmly, "I'd like to wait for the paternity test results first. Should just be a formality, but you know how insurance companies are." Amy's face went white. "What paternity test?" "The one I ordered as part of the newborn screening." "Standard procedure these days," I lied smoothly. "Nothing to worry about if everything's as it should be, right?" The panic in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. She tried to argue, said there was no need for a test, that it was a waste of money, but I stood firm. The nurse, sensing tension, made some excuse about checking on other patients and left us alone. "Jack, what are you doing?" Amy hissed once we were alone. "Why are you asking for a paternity test?" I shrugged, just covering all bases for insurance purposes. "Do you think the baby isn't yours?" I looked her right in the eyes. "Is he?" Her face crumpled. For a second, I thought she might confess. Instead, she started crying. "How could you even ask me that? After everything we've been through together, I can't believe you don't trust me." The performance was impressive. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I might even have believed her. Might have felt like the worst husband in the world for doubting her. But I knew the truth. It's just a test, Amy. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to worry about. She kept crying, playing the victim. making me out to be the bad guy. I just sat there letting her perform, knowing it was all about to come crashing down. 3 days later, I got the email I'd been waiting. 4 DNA results confirming what I already knew. 0% probability that I was the father. That night when we got home from the hospital with the baby, I waited until Amy had finished feeding him and put him down in the crib I'd assembled. She came out to the living room, exhausted but smiling. "He's perfect, isn't he?" she said. "Looks just like his father," I replied, my voice calm. Her smile faltered. "What?" I slid an envelope across the coffee table. The paternity test results came back. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. "Jack, I don't know what you're talking about. Open it, Amy." Her hands shook as she tore open the envelope. I watched as she scanned the document, her face draining of color. This must be a mistake," she stammered. "Is it, or is the mistake thinking I was too stupid to figure out you've been _ my brother?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "Jack, I can explain." "Save it." I tossed a stack of papers next to the DNA results. "Remember these? You signed them a couple of months ago. Page 16 is particularly interesting. It states that in case of paternity fraud, that's what this is called, by the way, I have no financial or legal obligation to the child, and full responsibility falls to the biological father." "You tricked me," she whispered. "No, Amy, you tricked me. I just outsmarted you." Her phone rang. It was Ryan. I gestured for her to answer it and put it on speaker. "Amy, what the _ is this legal notice I just got?" Ryan was shouting. "It says I'm being named as the father of your baby, and I have 30 days to contest it, or I'm on the hook for child support." "Ryan, calm down," she pleaded. "We can figure this out." "Figure what out?" "I never agreed to be a dad. This was your idea. You said Jack would raise it, and I could just be the fun uncle. I can't afford a kid, but you said you loved me. You said once the baby was born, we could I said a lot of things to get you in bed." "Amy, Jesus Christ, I'm not paying for a kid for 18 years. My brother can deal with it." "I took the phone actually, bro. I won't be dealing with it. DNA test proves it's not mine." And Amy signed papers saying the biological father, that's you, gets full financial responsibility. Silence. Then, "Jack, you knew I know everything. The texts, the hotel rooms, the things you've said about me. It's all documented, and now you get to deal with the consequences. Congrats, you're a dad. _ Jack. You can't do this to me. I'll contest it." "Say the test is wrong. Go ahead. I've got recordings of you bragging about knocking up my wife, talking about how I'd raise your kid while you got all the fun. You really want a judge to hear that?" More silence. "This is _ I'm not paying for anything. Then you'll go to jail. For failure to pay child support? Your choice." I hung up and looked at Amy, who was now sobbing on the couch. "Jack, please," she begged. "We can work this out. I made a mistake. The baby needs a father. He has one. His name is Ryan." I stood up and walked to the door, grabbing my pre-packed duffel bag on the way. "I've already filed for divorce. My lawyer. We'll be in touch." "Jack, wait. You can't leave us?" I stopped at the door and looked back at her. "Watch me." The next few months were a _ storm of epic proportions. Amy tried everything to get me back, crying, begging, threatening, sending my mom to guilt-trip me, even showing up at my work. None of it worked. The divorce papers were already filed, and I'd moved into that apartment I'd rented across town. My mom was devastated when I finally told her everything and showed her the evidence. She didn't want to believe it at first, made excuses for Ryan like she always did. "He's going through a rough time," she said. "He makes mistakes, but he's not a bad person." "Mom," I said, "he slept with my wife. got her pregnant, and planned to trick me into raising his child. If that's not a bad person, what is? She didn't have an answer for that. Amy took me to court. Of course. She tried to argue that since we were married when the baby was born, I was legally responsible regardless of biology. She had this hotshot lawyer her parents paid for. All smooth talk and expensive suit. The judge took one look at the evidence, the DNA test, the recordings of her admitting the paternity fraud, the signed documents and the text messages, and threw her case out within 20 minutes. Mrs. Harrison, the judge said, looking disgusted, the court finds your attempt to defraud your husband morally reprehensible. The biological father, Ryan Harrison, is hereby ordered to pay child support for the next 18 years. Ryan went ballistic in the courtroom. This is _I. Never agreed to this. I can't afford that. The judge was unmoved. Perhaps you should have considered the financial implications before engaging in an affair with your brother's wife. If you fail to make payments, you will face garnishment of wages and possible jail time. The look on Ryan's face was priceless, but the best part was yet to come. Amy's pharmaceutical company found out about the scandal. Turns out one of the vice presidents goes to the same church as my buddy Jeff. They fired her for moral turpitude, or some clause in her contract. She lost her company car, her health insurance, everything. Ryan tried to skip town to avoid child support, but got pulled over for a broken taillight 2 counties over. He had a warrant out already for missing his first payment and spent 30 days in county lockup. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding my life. The divorce was finalized quickly given the circumstances. I sold the house. Amy couldn't afford to buy me out, not with no job and a newborn. I used my half of the equity to put a down payment on a small cabin near the national forest where I work. My mom was torn. Her precious golden boy had shown his true colors, but she still tried to defend him at first. He made a mistake, Jack. We all make mistakes. Sleeping with my wife wasn't a mistake, Mom. Getting her pregnant wasn't a mistake. Plotting to trick me into raising his kid wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate betrayal by both of